Mainstream anime. They're normally some of the most popular shows, but as we've learned with Sword Art Online and Kakaguru, they don't always have to be the best of the best. Sometimes being average is good enough. In even rarer cases, you could find a show or two that completely missed the mark. But at the end of the day, creating a new mainstream series is much harder than it looks. It should cover a broad array of content while remaining loyal to what makes it so unique. The issue is, the more unique your content is, the higher the chance people new to anime may feel adverse to it. This is unfortunately more common in shows that don't aim to please large market audiences, like action shonen fans, for instance. With a lot more beneath the surface, let's get into it. Hidden gems get that name for one of two reasons. They either got exposed to the mainstream outlet but didn't do that well, or they didn't appeal to large audiences but the show's quality was still good, leading to them being hidden, underrated gems. Now, truth is, the market is saturated with avid action fans. To get even a thin slice of that pie without dabbling in some sort of fight scenes is a big undertaking. Sure, Erased and Your Lie in April wield a ton of popularity, but it's hard for the quality of content to outshine the stigma that only action shows reign supreme. But it's not all sunshine and roses for that genre. If you can't compete in the animation business and have high-performing stories like in Jujutsu Kaisen or AOT, you're simply not welcome. A good example is Tokyo Ghoul. Despite some very cordial reviews for the show itself, with such a large scope of viewership, there were bound to be people comparing it to the manga, which overall was better received, but doesn't justify a lower score for the anime. Additionally, it's not a secret that Season 2 came across much worse, but conflating the two in an all-inclusive rating doesn't accurately reflect Season 1 itself. Compare that to a show like Akudama Drive, where expectations were much lower. It got a lot of praise for its cyberpunk visuals and fun storyline. It was a breath of fresh air in an unknown sector for its time, and with risk, it had reward. Just like Tokyo Ghoul, it put up 75%. Obviously, there's two sides to every coin, but differences lie in exposure to a mainstream audience. Alternatively, some shows never get that harrowing opportunity, but then again, it could be a blessing in disguise. Some shows you just have a feeling wouldn't do as well with more eyes on them. I chose a few that may have done worse if they were mainstream. Those include Vivy, Katanagatari, Odd Taxi, and The Dangers in My Heart, just to name a few. Each one had incredible ratings, but when push comes to shove, it's not hard to guess why staying hidden was their best chance of survival, not to diminish the respect these shows deserve in any way. All four shows are great examples of what it means to go against the grain, but the more people have against their differences, the lower the show's ratings get, and the more their future credibility tanks in lieu of more views. While it's very hard to accurately gauge just how much damage a larger audience can do, it's generally not a good idea to hold new shows that may not even be your genre to the same standards you would your favorite shows, because realistically, it won't always correlate. My perspective is to judge a series without preconceived dispositions, so if it isn't the next Code Geass or Hunter x Hunter, that's perfectly fine as long as it's genuinely entertaining with a good set of characters and a nice story, which I think is completely reasonable. Just to quickly explain why I picked those four shows from earlier, Vivy was because it had to do with music, which tends to be a very unpopular genre. Katanagatari was because 1 hour long episodes probably don't pull in the biggest audiences. Odd Taxi was there because the cast was all animals. I know you can't see my air quotes, but hopefully you get what I mean if you watched it, and The Dangers in My Heart because the romantic two are in middle school. I know not all shows mentioned were strongly affected by mainstream exposure, but it's worth considering the effects that has on up-and-coming series, and not even completely negatively. I think we learned that when it came to Oshinoko. A lot more exposure can mean more money from merch for studios, so I completely get that there's positives involved too, but this was more so a video on the negatives, though there's always two sides to every story. As always, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.